Give me a second. Hold on. Hey guys, today we're gonna be reacting to the Tuesday tapes, the terrifying ARG that is invading reality, made by Nightmare Movies. We got a short one. Thank God. Yeah. Let's go. Willy Willy.
Let's take it back a couple years. It's 2023, a Friday night. You're staying up late watching some of your favorite YouTubers. Nexpo, Wendigoon, Nick Crowley maybe. You're enjoying yourself, maybe getting a little scared, when suddenly, in the middle of the video, you get an ad break. This is what plays.
What? Wait, no, that's like, wait, hold on. What? No way. You're telling me. No. You're telling me this ad, this ARG, is an ad? That's crazy. I'm not gonna lie. Hold on. No, there's no way. Like an ad system? No, dude. That's crazy. That means I must have like spent some money on this. I'm not doing that, bro. What? 9/11?
You sit in silence for a moment. Maybe you think nothing of it and move on, or maybe starts to get into your head. Why did YouTube show me this? So you go online and you find that you're not the only one who saw this video. Tons of people are posting about this. They all saw the exact same ad as you, on the exact same channels that you were watching. So you do some research and find the channel that's responsible. Gloomy Texan Media, and from here, what you find is a series of videos titled The Tuesday Tapes. 6 in total. And this is when you discover something that isn't just a normal horror channel. Buckle up, because we're about to dive headfirst into a terrifying reality. One that might be all too real.
I'm scared.
It's 1998, and we're getting an optimistic and encouraging speech from our narrator at the Latent World program. He assures us that men like Timothy McVeigh, the people of Waco, and even the President of the United States, Bill Clinton, are merely aberrations. That the new millennium will bear gifts of peace and prosperity, all while we get idealistic B-roll of suburban America just before Y2K. And again, the narrator assures us that this will be America. But in times of peace, there are always those who are plotting evil all around the globe. So we, at the Latent World program, propose an addendum. Know thine enemy before thine enemy even exists.
How does that even work? Like, do you make the enemy?
Looks like we found one. But with this inevitable change comes the opportunity to refashion the world, just like before with World War II. A long and arduous process, inevitably, but one that'll be worth it no matter the cost. We are everywhere. We are unseen. We are the Latent World program. Quite the introduction. In this short 4-minute video, there's already a multitude of mysteries that are set up. What is the Latent World program? What do they want? And how are they going to achieve their goals? Well, we're going to have to continue on and see, but this intro already sets up just how ready the Latent World program really is. Not only with their preparation, but with how far they're willing to go. Mentioning reshaping the world like in World War II, and accepting the inevitable casualties that come with that. They call for a new Pearl Harbor, launching America into a shadow war against an enemy that is unseen.
Okay, so we already know that this is a patriotic type of company. This is a patriotic program, I see, like some sort of military thing.
But ever present. So who is the enemy? Off the bat, we get a pretty clear direction for this tape. The neutralization of an info hazard
Oh,
named
that's just the title.
June 8th, an information breach was confirmed and was the culprit. July 13th, it's confirmed that he has fled to North America. His motives are still unknown. And in September, on the 23rd, we found him. And so the next steps are as follows. Establish observation posts and monitor the subject for 72 hours. So that's what we'll do. Watch and wait. Watch and wait. And here's what we've gathered. Subject is reclusive, but hardly cautious. Every escort service in town has his name on file. And other than contacting a few news outlets via email, he doesn't seem to be in any rush to expose the information. So with the information gathered, it's time to deal with this. 2 agents are sent out under the code names Apollo and Artemis. They drive down the road on this dark October night, eventually tracking to a gastropub where he's meeting up with another escort, presumably. But in reality, it's a facade. It's Artemis. They monitor him for another 17 days, learning his routine. Then on the 23rd of October, Artemis sets the stage for the evening's engagement. And what does that entail? Well, as the title of the video says, we're going to witness what the Latent World program calls jack lighting. At 10:49 p.m., and his new acquaintance arrive back at his home. They enter and begin to engage in foreplay. As this continues, our agent offers him a dose of. Symptoms of this drug include rapidly increased body temperature, sudden onset delirium, and decreased mobility. Oh, and a side effect is sensory overstimulation. And it looks like it's kicking in. Artemis and Apollo then begin their torture, the fun part, flashing lights in his eyes, blaring music into his ears, and ultimately causing an overdose, jack lighting, or the illegal, unethical practice of using artificial light, such as spotlights or car headlights, to locate, blind, and disorient nocturnal animals, making them easy targets for poaching. And with that, the mission is complete. His webpage will be shut down, all leads will not be pursued, and our John Doe will be forgotten. So to answer one of the questions, it seems that the enemy, as of now, is anyone who goes against the Latent World program. It was the example of what happens if you do. This goes beyond simple assassination. This is brutal, unrestrained violence. And it also shows how dedicated members of the Latent World program are. They track down for almost a full year, learning his every move, following him to America, all for the ultimate goal of...
So you want to learn chess, huh? Bold choice. All right. Let's start with the knight.
That's brutal.
This time we're going to flip the perspective from the hunters to the hunted. This tape is a collection of footage from the info hazard named Cody, and so we start with a tape from June of 2001.
It's happening again. This is the third fucking night in a row. Something is crawling around up there. I don't know, but that's what I saw.
Seems like he's already onto us. He's a lot smarter than was. He's got motion sensors set up. He's calling the sheriff when he sees activity. But unluckily for him, that's not going to stop us. So how did Cody get in this situation? Well, he has a theory on that. Back in 2000, he was working as a systems admin for a, quote, hot new wireless company. As with most companies that use hot and new as buzzwords to draw in new customers, this wireless company tanked. While looking for something new to do, his uncle gave him a call out of the blue, offering an escape. Come stay in Nowheresville, Oregon while he takes a trip to Europe. Now what the hell, why not? So Cody packs up a few belongings and starts his coast-to-coast trip. Only it wasn't just his belongings he took. A random ass floppy with one word on it. Tuesday. And don't worry, we'll get back to that. But it's getting dark out, so it's time to hunker down. Unfortunately, according to Cody, his hippie uncle is the only one who lives in the middle of nowhere with no gun. So all he has to defend himself with is a bat. So he's gonna wait and wait until...
Well, that's somebody on there. He about to murk
Cody
your
wakes
ass.
up. The door to his garage is open. He goes to investigate but finds nothing. But that doesn't mean he won't find anything when he searches elsewhere. Whoever invaded his garage has left him a little present. On a fold-out chair on his front porch, there's a doll tied to a crucifix. Once Cody discovers this, everything gets much worse. He hears a noise behind him, and when he turns around, a man appears out of the darkness, and he's making his way towards Cody. He's barely able to escape back into the house, and...
Mr. Edmonds, we need to talk. Stay by your landline tomorrow. I know what's hunting you.
An Another unnerving entry into the tapes, and one that gives a few more clues as to what's going on. With both Cody and story, it seems that they've gained access to some sort of classified information. It's unclear for now what that information is, but it's dangerous enough to have members of the Latent World program hunting them down. I'm still so unsure how all of this is connected, but what I do know is that so far, this is a genuinely creepy series of videos, so we just have to keep moving through, which leads us to... This is a tape following yet another info hazard. This time, however, there's no name given, only a cryptonym, Monkey. And this isn't the only thing that sets this tape apart from the others. A woman is sitting in what looks like a motel room. She stays silent, writing something off screen. She flips her post-it notes around, and it reads, "I am so afraid." Unlike the others, it seems that this woman, Monkey, is much more aware of her predicament. She continues to write that they are always listening, that they've been following her for 2 weeks, and that no one she loves knows she's missing. She is alone and doesn't seem to have many belongings. Just her camcorder, a couple of books, a knife, and a floppy disk. She spots an unmarked white van following her through the woods and makes her way back to the motel. Once inside, she takes the floppy and stashes it away in a Bible, puts it in a drawer, and it seems that they've found her, and we already know what they plan on doing. So this place is her final stop. She accepts her fate, lying on the bed and waiting for the inevitable to happen. The door slowly opens. She closes her eyes,
And then they jacklight her. Okay.
this is different. It looks like we have an entirely new perspective, a collector of sorts. All these tapes and floppies, presumably victims of the Latent World program. And on the TV, over a video of Monkey, the text reads, Damnatio Memore, or Latin for damnation of memory, the erasure of a person and their memories, like they never even existed in the first place. This is the only real new information we get. The rest of this tape seems to emphasize the scope of the Latent World program. This specific tape was recovered in Washington State. The previous was in Oregon, but the original floppy Cody took was from New York. They weren't lying when they said, "We are everywhere." But just when you might think that this series is getting a little stale, we get an intermission. According to this video's description, on Valentine's Day of the year 2000, a broadcast hijacking affected 2 stations in southern Illinois. The Federal Communications Commission briefly opened an investigation into the incident, but abandoned it for unclear reasons. The perpetrators have never been publicly identified. And even more interesting, according to the comments section, this was another video that hijacked a lot of people watching YouTube videos, specifically on Wendigoon, Nexpo, Pharrell Maguire, and Film Theories channels. And this seems to be a counterattack against the Latent World program. It warns us about the new millennium, that something terrible is on the way. And most importantly, it gives us 2 new pieces of information. Firstly, these coordinates, that if you type them into Google Maps, directs you to Jared Leto's residence in Los Angeles, California. But it is so much more bizarre than that. It's listed on Google Maps as the Lookout Mountain Air Force Station, a facility that, once you look into, gives us a hint as to what's really going on here. Back in 1947, when it was first built, the reason for its construction was a secret, but now we know the truth.
Hi guys! So I just wanna share this video kasi meron akong discover na bagong site kung saan pwede tayo mag-Viva Max.
Nope. Not doing that.
Nuclear bomb testing. The US government after World War II was still actively testing nuclear weapons and needed a secure location to develop their footage. This was that place. For almost 2 decades, this was where classified documentation of nuclear weapons would go to be developed. Kind of puts into perspective what the Latent World program narrator meant when he mentioned the opportunity to refashion the world, just like before with World War II. So, nuclear war. That seems to be where this is headed. But there's another piece of information that comes at the end, with this message. Brought to you by Enron. And if you don't know what Enron is, they were an American energy company that went bankrupt in 2001 due to some very sketchy accounting. They were a major energy company at the time, and their bankruptcy, the largest one in the world still to this day due to fraud, affected the entire business world as a whole. And what happens when you need economic prosperity in a country that finds itself corrupt and collapsing? Well, I already mentioned it, but war. That is what this broadcast is warning us of. And if you would just listen
Same thing. What?
So we are back with Artemis and Apollo, and this is their special tape where we get to learn all about them. The two of them are heading to another job, and Artemis explains to us her origins, let's say. It's hard to understand the full context, because this starts in the middle of their conversation. But back in Bangkok, she learned the ways of escorts at a very young age, recounting her first experience with a client, a man who beat her when she decided to, quote, talk back. And from here, her idea of intimacy became very distorted. She explains to us in a later interview how she needs a man to be in fear to be even Stevens with them. And it's also why she noticeably enjoys torturing the men in her line of work more than the women. But her twisted mentality isn't just limited to her intimate engagements. Her whole worldview is twisted. She's sadistic, and the Latent World program has given her the perfect opportunity to act that way. They're headed to a dinner party, and this is by far the most violent part of any video. We watch Artemis and Apollo kill and torture numerous people. It's bloody, it's vile, and it's all swept under the rug. Mid-interview, as they have nicknamed their torture sessions, there's a knock on the door from the police. But Apollo and Artemis aren't even worried. They hand over some paperwork and are free to continue their business. With each new tape, we learn just how far the Latent World program's reach is. They're allowed to do whatever they want, with no repercussions. And the cherry on top, this snuff film was brought to you all by the Lookout Mountain Air Force Station. Looks like they haven't shut down. They still have important business to conduct. And that leaves one
Some
more.
Tuesday files. What is in them files?
We're back
I'm
with
not gonna
Cody
lie,
and the
I'm
man
curious.
on the phone, Abel. And this is where we'll get a lot more information about the Latent World program. Firstly, Abel assures Cody that the people he's been seeing are only there to scare him, not hurt him. We know they're capable if they want to be. But they are under the assumption that Cody has reviewed the contents of that disc and is well aware of what it all means. They're simply waiting to see what happens next. And Abel's advice, sit tight and do nothing. Wait for him to call back. So Cody does just that. But all that doing nothing eventually is going to lead him to doing something. And that's when he decides to take a look at what's on the floppy disk. But it doesn't really give much more information. There's spreadsheets, some corrupted videos, and a file titled Pentamascal. None of this really means anything. But just as Cody is about to throw in the towel, he has an idea. He takes a look at those spreadsheets and finds something he does understand. The stock exchange. Turns out there was a company that was doing some sketchy things, and maybe they were going to go bankrupt for it. Well, someone on the inside might have known about it and decided to make a little money, banking on their failure. With this discovery, however, comes exactly what Abel was warning about, and probably what you expected. Late at night, Artemis and Apollo start their usual theatrics, terrorizing Cody, but before we see anything happen, and that is the Tuesday tapes. So what is really going on here? So from the get-go, this is an incredibly immersive ARG. This whole meta-narrative is a fascinating rabbit hole to go down. So I'm gonna try and explain it as best as I can. And just a reminder that this is my own personal theory. A lot of this is really vague, so I'm just putting together pieces where I see them fitting. My interpretation is that back in the early 2000s, whether it was through the Illuminati or some other New World Order type organization, the Latent World program was launched, but it's still pretty vague what the end goal of this program is. If we refer back to the very first video, the program is aimed at long-term peace and prosperity for America, similar to what happened apparently after World War II. And this is where I have to put on my tinfoil hat and explain my own theory. My theory starts with Apollo, and more so Artemis, who seem to just be agents that they send to kill people, but are key players in some kind of plan. In the fourth tape, we learn about Artemis's desire to become a true American and her upbringing. She was born in Singapore, and I imagine immigrated to the US. Then she was recruited by whatever shadowy order is in charge of the Latent World program, and sent off on these missions to brutally kill info hazards, people trying to leak information. But she also mentions that once they're done, they're going to be dragged off into the desert, shot, and remembered for all of history. They're rabid dogs to be put down when they have served their purpose, just like Old Yeller, Artemis mentions. But why would they do this? to create controlled chaos. Whoever is in charge of the Latent World program pretty obviously
That is
wants to start a
insane.
war. But how do you do that? Well, first, we need reasons for the government or whoever this is to overstep. You need the American public to think that they're being targeted. One way to do that might be to create a series of brutal murders all across the country. People will be scared to leave their homes. They'll want more police, more government involvement to keep themselves safe. So that's what you do. Send some psychos out to kill info hazards in the most brutal ways possible. Kill two birds with one stone. Send a message and at the same time stop your plans from being leaked. If you think that's too far-fetched, well, the creator of the series mentions a book called Program to Kill, which highlights exactly what this series is exploring. The connection between some killers, the CIA, and a whole bunch of other stuff. But creating a panic isn't enough to go to war on its own. You're still missing a couple pieces. Maybe let's throw in, I don't know, an economic crisis caused by the bankruptcy of a major energy corporation. And when people are really starting to freak out, this is when you can run your propaganda on some of the biggest horror channels on YouTube. Really get people behind what you're selling. And since this series isn't fully finished, it seems, God only knows what else they have in store. But after that, all you need is a target. You'll have an army of people ready to support your cause. And that is how you start World War III. And this is the real horror of the Tuesday tapes. It utilizes very real events, very real places and people to create a fictional narrative of an impending world war. One orchestrated by people of power to profit off of and to eradicate their enemies on a global scale. And it's crazy that people got legitimate advertisements for this series on huge horror channels. This takes it one step further into reality, and what's even more crazy is that we get another fourth wall break. We get a brief look at the actual person who is putting this series together in episode 3. There are so many layers to peel back in this series, ones that I'm sure I missed, but this is just my own theory. And the last thing I want to say is this.
Are you part of this too?
The Tuesday Tapes has to be one of the most immersive and terrifying ARGs on YouTube right now. These tapes are unnerving. I'm not kidding. Some of these sequences are genuinely horrific and terrifying. It's
like
bloody, it's gory, and it freaked me the out.
Why-
There's layers to this that I'm sure I
why
haven't
is
even
there real
discovered yet. I
footage?
want you to go. I want you to watch the Tuesday Tapes, and I want you to let me know what you think
Bro, why does actual
down below.
footage?
And with all that being said, I'm Nightmare Movies. And
Bro, you're pissing me off. What a
Kung bata ka
good
pa,
man.
huwag
Oh
mo munang
my
i-download ang
god, bro.
At kung hindi kasi,
I'm trying to do my intro, gang. But basically, anyways, thank you for watching the video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I hope, you know, we make more videos like this. I really like the ARGs, you know, the reaction channels, me reacting. The reaction channels are kind of, you know, kind of hit these days, so I'm gonna just be doing that. But anyways, make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I know you've heard that a lot, but I don't give a shit. And I'll see you next video. Bye bye. And please don't die.